Alright, so before I begin to construct a scatter plot, I want you all to understand exactly what a scatter plot is. So we are currently looking at a scatter plot, number of hours studied versus test scores. So as you can see, the dots all kind of go into a trend upward to the right, which we previously identified as that to be a positive correlation, meaning the more hours you study, the greater your test score, generally speaking. Of course, there will always be exceptions, but this should make sense to you as you're looking at it. If we're looking at this scatter plot, we have the same variables, the number of hours studied versus test scores again, but in this instance, it is a negative correlation. It is negative to the fact that the number of hours studied, so the least amount of hours you study, the higher your test score. So for someone that studied just for 1 hour, they scored about 85 on their test score. But we have someone that studied almost 10 hours and got a little over 0 on their test. That is a negative correlation, and it truly is not a representation of how things work in real life. You gotta study. Just saying. If we're looking at C, our plots do not go upright, they do not come downright. So there's not a positive nor negative correlation with these data points. There appears to be some clustering of all those points between, we'll say, a score of 30 to about 70. So nobody, regardless of how long they studied, scored any higher. There's a few that scored a little bit less, but generally speaking, this test scores range from an E to a C. So either we're not studying the right things, or we didn't understand what we were studying, but this would, as a teacher, cause me to have us review some information so we could take that test again, because those scores are kind of icky. And then in this last example, we can see, again, there is no upright or downright correlation, so there is no positive or negative correlation in our data. What we are seeing, though, is students generally studied between 3 and 8 hours for this test, and scores range from 0 to 100. So the efficiency of how well these people studied is definitely determining the grade they got on this exam. Now, let's create our own scatter plot. So I have a table, wind speed and wind chill temperature. I graph my wind speed along my x-axis, my temperature is along my y-axis. So when I'm graphing these points, I read my table. When wind speed is 0, temperature is 32, and I just make a point. Oops, maybe. There we go. When wind speed is 6, my temperature is 28. So wind speed, temperature. When wind speed is 9, temperature is 22. So I'll do some estimating between 8 and 10. And also between 20 and 24. There's my next point. When wind speed is 12, my temperature is 18. Again, some estimation is involved. Wind speed is 17, temperature is 16. Wind speed is 20, temperature is 10. 20, 10, some estimation between 8 and 12. And then wind speed is 22, temperature is 3. So, for this graph, I can see my points are all going down to the right. What type of correlation is down right? We have a negative correlation this time. So that means As my wind speed increases, my temperature decreases. So as X increases, my Y decreases. So the higher my wind speed, we can see the lower my temperature. So we have to read correlations. We have to read scatter plots in the context of the graph that they represent. This will take practice, and we will spend some time practicing. We will do more practices together. I'll put some more videos up, but this should help to get you started. Until next time.